In Central Texas, and I'm here with Merri Kronk.
Hey, Kyle. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're well.
And so on this episode of Franchise Talk, you know that we pick a topic and we talk about it. And today we are going to pick one that I think is on everybody's minds: is how do I get the money to run a franchise business? The
Yeah,
golden question.
absolutely. I was having a conversation with that with one of our colleagues yesterday. Their client had some really unique circumstances, as we find everyone does. So
Yes.
it's an important piece, and I think that there's more to getting the money for a business, more than just lending, I should say. Most people come to the table and they think they're going to go to the bank and get a loan, and that may be very appropriate for some people, but there may be other ways for people to get the money and really find that it's cheaper for them, it's quicker to get that money long run. It may have other benefits to it as well. So yeah, Kyle, I mean, how would you like to go from here? Should we just start listing them off, or?
Well, you intrigued me. There's some other ways, implying that you've got some ideas. What are some alternative ways that you've seen that people get money?
There's a good amount of people that will use their retirement funds to invest in their business, thus
Hmm.
helping to fund their ultimate retirement, right? As they build their saleable asset, they build equity in their business. And they can use those retirement funds if they are in a 401k or an IRA, not a Roth IRA, by the way, but they can use
Yeah, that's
those
post-tax.
funds, set up a C Corp, and use those funds to buy stock in their company, thus funding their company. So, and a
Hmm.
lot of people don't know that this is available to them. It has to be done properly to the letter of the ERISA laws, but it's a nice way for someone to go into business without having debt service, right? They're not taking a
Yeah.
loan against that money. They're using it to invest in their business and ultimately in their retirement.
It's I'm pleased that you came out swinging with what I find to be probably the way that a slight majority of all the people that I've ever worked with actually fund their business. And it's something that's really common amongst entrepreneurs, but people in the workforce don't really know about it, right? And you're still not touching it till you're 59 and a half. You're not taking a loan against it. You're not withdrawing or paying penalties or taxes. You're actually investing in yourself, and that's a huge deal. And when that light bulb moment happens for our clients, it ends up being often the difference between being able to get into business and we're not.
So,
And
Kyle, I was going to ask you, have you had anyone that you've worked with lately look at home equity?
I have, and that can be an interesting thing. I think in Texas it can be tricky sometimes, using home equity lines of credit to fund a business directly. I have seen people who have done it with their second homes, or other properties they can loan against. That's totally an okay way to gain capital. I've also seen folks that use a home equity line of credit or maybe do a refi with a cash out. A refi with a cash out is a great way to get some money. Home equity line of credit is a great way to cover some of your home expenses while you're building the business in the beginning. What about you?
Right. And, that exactly describes it. I had a client recently that was very interested in doing that. We've seen the values of our homes go up. So that's occurring to more people more often right now.
Hmm.
It's really important that they understand, how that money actually gets used and what that's going to mean to them. The refi cash out has come up quite a bit recently as well. So thanks for tackling that one. Another thing that we've seen recently is use of term loans. These loans typically have a little bit higher upfront fee. They may have some higher interest rates as well, but it's a way to get into the business, get the business up and running more quickly, and still being able to pay that off over time, and you may not have to put some cash into it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of an interesting one. You've got to have really good credit for something like that. You've got to show a method for paying your bills, of course, while you are working on that business as well. So that may apply to some of our clients.
Yeah, and term loans are collateralized, yes?
No, no,
No,
not at
interesting.
yeah, not in this case. If the person has a good credit score, like I said, they've shown some responsibility and taken care of their own business, the business of their life, I mean, they may have access to these funds. Now, don't forget what I said, though, higher upfront fee to access these monies and
Hmm.
higher interest rate than going to the bank and actually getting a loan.
So let's compare those two. Like a lot of our clients also use SBA loans. Many of the franchises that we work with are on the SBA registry, and if you have a generally like a 700 or better credit score, that becomes an option. How does a term loan differ from an SBA loan?
It's just a direct loan from the bank. The SBA, an SBA guaranteed loan is a safety net to make the bank feel better about loaning the individual the money. They're providing the
Hmm.
safety net there. They're underwriting that loan.
Yeah,
And whenever you are looking at an SBA guaranteed loan, you will have to bring cash to the table, maybe 20 to 50% of the total investment of the business that you're getting into. So you have to make sure you have a cash injection. That's your skin in the game, if you will, for a loan
yeah,
like that. You've also got to have good credit, like you said, 700. That's pretty typical with the term loan as well.
yep,
Um, with an SBA guaranteed loan, you may need some collateral. And in Texas, if you've homesteaded your primary residence, it won't come from that. So
yes,
it may come from something else that you own, property, meaning. You can also expect that with an SBA guaranteed loan, they want to make sure that you've taken care again of the business of your life. You're of good character, right? You've paid your bills on time. That's very similar with a term loan as well. Um,
hmm,
with an SBA guaranteed loan, they look at condition of the industry that you're getting into. Not so much with the term loan. It's not
yeah,
as restrictive that way.
yeah. It's more about personal accountability there.
Right. So,
Hmm.
that those are kind of the differences as I see them. Also, it's taking a bit longer these days to get an SBA guaranteed loan because the SBA has so much activity. So you've got to
Yep.
be okay with that, that it could be a few months compared to maybe a few weeks with a term loan.
So
So
time to close matters, especially if you're trying to use that capital to get a business up and running fast. So I could see how that could be really advantageous.
absolutely.
There's a couple in the time that we have today that we haven't talked about yet, and I wanted to cover those too. I see a lot of folks are, when you build a business, if you imagine your net worth is kind of like a pie, you build a business, you're creating a new wedge in your pie, and it needs to be fed with other wedges, just like any other asset that you own. And some people divest from market securities in order to get into a business. And there's a couple of ways I've seen do that. The first one is, quite simply sell stocks, get the cash, put it into a business. Why would people do that?
You pay
um,
capital gains when you do that. So
do what?
you pay capital gains when you do that many times.
You do. And so some people do that because they want to take those gains, do the profit taking and diversify their holdings. And so I think that, for those who are doing this with a significant amount of money, it sort of implies that you have some sort of investing prowess and you understand the concept of opportunity cost. And so, for those who might be contemplating, should I do this or not, think of the opportunity cost of reinvesting that capital into a business and what the returns could be versus keeping it where it is. If the opportunity cost is higher in a business, that might be a good play. But the downside you said is yes, you're paying capital gains, and so another variant that I've seen some people do is do a portfolio loan
Mhm.
against, and that way you can remain invested in the public markets if you so choose, use that as collateral as a loan against that asset, and then use that money to run a business. Now, obviously those have costs as well because you have an interest and a repayment schedule, but that can be a way to defer taxes on capital gains.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking that the last thing that you were thinking, so let's see if I'm right here, is this idea of using other people's money. Either,
OPM.
yeah, going to friends and family, creating partnerships. I
Yep.
think of all the ways that you could fund a business. This is the one that deserves the absolute most thought. you know,
Yes.
there's
Yes.
a lot of things going on here.
Yeah, there are. I've done worked with folks who have done that quite a bit, and it's often a parent or a spouse or somebody else or a brother or a sibling, somebody who loves and trusts you. And in those types of things, often the arrangement is kind of in the family. It's like up to you guys. I think that for those who are contemplating that, it's a legit method. But I think that whoever is going to offer that capital up to you should also be prepared to at least have a phone call or provide a letter of intent to a franchisor so that they have a high comfort level. Because, it's all talk until actually the checks start getting written. But I think it's also important to know that it's less about the type of business you're investing in and more about the person who's running it that is you're investing in. So if you run into somebody who says, yeah, I might put it in, but it depends on what business you like, that's a red flag. But if they love you and they trust you and they want you to be successful and they're willing to put forth the money, then I think also there's some credence to working with people like us who can make sure that you are looking at the right businesses that are a good fit. So I've seen that play out very successfully many times. I don't know about you. You got any examples of that?
Yes, with multi-generational wealth building, we've seen a lot of that with parents and kids, just
Hmm.
moving forward with businesses rather than going into corporate America for some of them. For others, it happens later down the line after they've already been doing it. But yes, I have had clients be very successful in that situation. Maybe they took a loan from the family. I think that the trickier one is probably partnerships. I think a lot of people love the idea of a partnership because they feel like they're lowering the risk of getting into business, but they haven't really always thought about the fact they're going to be splitting upside and the fact that they're never going to make a decision alone, which could be a pro or a con depending on who they are. But
Yeah.
going back to your point of, making sure that the person running the business has the skill sets necessary to make it hum, it's really important that the operating partner be that person that has that true match. Where I see it a little bit unsuccessful again is somebody who says, I would like to buy XYZ business and this other person's going to run it for me. Well, if the other
Oh,
person doesn't have the skill sets necessary, that's a really tough situation
it
and doesn't
is.
always work well. The other thing in getting involved in partnerships, if as partners go, you've got to have a good partnership agreement from the beginning. And I think most people are familiar with that, knowing who's going to do what. What isn't often considered is the exit strategy, having a good buy sell agreement. So
Hmm.
you're ready to get out of that business. You have a way to get out of that business that's been predetermined. So no one's arguing over who gets what at the end, therefore tanking the business, right? So I think with partnerships, it takes a little more thought and a few more steps really to make it appropriate. And going back to another point that you made about franchisors, franchisors want to know who that operating partner is and who the investing partner is, and they want them both really involved in the due diligence
Yeah,
process.
absolutely.
They
I
want
often tell
to-
people that if you're getting into a partnership, you should treat it with the same gravity as a marriage, right? With a prenup, the divorce clauses that you mentioned, but think about how you're going to get out of it before you get into it. A lot of us treat partnerships like sinking ships. They're to be avoided.
Well, there's
Partnerships are like,
self-talk too.
yes, but partnerships are kind of like a helicopter. It's a bunch of pieces that just want to fly apart, and it takes a lot of work to keep them together.
Yeah.
That said, there is a right way to do it. Um, and I'm in agreement with you. I think, the money guy operator model is a big red flag. But I think the big litmus test is if you can successfully execute a partnership agreement before you even start looking at a specific concept, then you could probably run a business together. But if you can't do that, forget about it.
Yeah, absolutely. There takes some early decision making for
Yep.
sure.
Yep, absolutely. Well, cool. We packed a lot of information about how to get the money into a very short period of time. I think that's all we've got for today. So I really appreciate all your expertise as we discuss this topic, and I look forward to more future topics with Franchise Talk with Kyle and Merri and FranNet of Central Texas. Until then, got any parting thoughts?
I think we hit it all. There's one other methodology. You could pay cash. We'll leave you with that.
Yes, cash is king.
Cash is king, but we covered quite a few methodologies. If you'd like to
Yeah.
know more, please reach out to us. We'd be glad to help you. Even if
Yep.
your end game isn't a franchise, we definitely have good information on this and good resources for you. So
Yes.
thanks for
So
joining us.
yeah, and so on that topic, as we close, the call to action is if you do want to reach out to us, I do have a link in the description of this video, which is a way to get in touch with either Merri or me. So if you want to set a phone call, you want to get some more information, please click one of those links and we'll be happy to help you out. Until then, take care, y'all.
Thank you. Take care.